But yeah, this truck was originally painted in 1974.
So welcome to another episode of Junkyards and Barn Finds with Sean, and I'm Sean.
I think this is it. Oh. There he is. Morning. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, these are our project trucks.
Now, is this something that's been like original paint?
That was done in 1974, that truck.
That's what I'm saying. So that's a survivor, huh?
Yeah, it hasn't been, well, first off, I gotta tell you, I hate that freaking word. Because that makes me old.
Well, me too.
And so
How you doing this morning?
I'm very well.
So this is the.
I'm Joe, by the way.
This is Joe. That's Melissa.
Melissa.
So this is what's the official name?
Museum of Vanning.
Museum of Vanning.
Yeah, we're not there yet. We should
Okay.
Make a left turn, but yeah.
Oh, okay.
This truck actually, the guy that owned this originally used to race motorcycles too.
Oh, wow.
So it actually still has a 74 Husqvarna inside of it, and it still smells like the 70s in there if you get a good look at it.
So this now, does he still own it?
No, he's dead.
Okay, so he
Yeah.
passed away, and
Yeah,
then
this is it, and then it went to a friend of his who never did anything with it, and it showed up on eBay about 3 years ago, and a donor from California actually saw it.
Okay.
And decided we had to have it, so we bought it and shipped it to us.
wow, motor like literally
Just the way it's
this just the way it's sat with the motorcycle and everything, huh?
Yep. And the hope is that we get this thing into the shop, that we slow its death march down,
Right.
and save this truck. That's the point right now. Just having it is a start, I guess.
Okay.
And like I said, we got another truck over there, another 77. That's another project that came out of California. But yeah, this truck was originally painted in 1974.
Now it makes sense when you see confidence. Oh, confidence. Okay.
Yeah, the guy raced motorcycles too while he was showing. So this is a truck we're hoping to save.
Wow. And so it looks like last time was 1981 that it was on the last inspection.
Could have been, yeah.
It says 81.
Yeah, I drove it last week.
New York State Department of Motor Vehicles.
Yeah, it came from Syracuse.
So why do you hate the word survivor?
Because that's what all the movies are called. The kids that are finding vans that have been laying around for 50 years. And they're just not into the same scene that I was into when I was a kid.
He's got a hookah. So,
You should see what's on the dash. I don't know if that door is open or not.
oh, yeah, oh, it's unlocked.
Little stash box in there, smoke a little pipe.
Oh, wow. And there's the bike.
Cheap sunglasses just in case the eyes don't focus too well.
Stag party for Bart Nato.
There you go.
Now I'm wondering if the whoever Spook is. I wonder if anybody know. Do you know who he is?
Just the painter. I honestly don't know.
So if anybody knows who's, and this was like, if somebody knew, if this guy was still alive, he's going to know his work on this particular one.
Yeah.
So if anybody knows it,
I have a good friend that lives in Syracuse at a club called Salt City Vans,
right?
that has done a little bit of research on the van for me. You got to remember, there's two different sets of networking. There was the network of the guys that owned vans,
Right.
clubs, and all that kind of thing, and then there were the guys that just owned the van because
Right.
that never got into organized vanning.
Right.
This guy actually showed this van at Syracuse and Binghamton indoor autoramas, but never took it to what we call truck-ins, outdoor van events where we went camping in it.
Right.
This guy much rather go to bike meets and race his motorcycle and sleep in his van than hang out with other people that own vans.
So it's kind of like the guys that build cars and they go racing, drag racing every weekend down at the racetrack, and they have cool cars, and they'll go there on a Ford show or something at you know, Bradenton or somewhere, but they don't usually go, they're not in the Mustang Car Club or something like that, something to that, where they just have, there's different groups.
Sure.
So how did this become like,
How did
did
the
it start
museum
with
become?
one van and then you just started adding on, or was this something you said, I want to do a
The
museum?
The museum itself,
Yeah.
or my life in vanning?
Well, start with how did the museum come about,
Okay,
or
well-
which one led to the other one, maybe.
Well, the whole thing started with me being, my brother went away in the service in 1971, and he subscribed to Hot Rod Magazine.
Okay.
And during that time, his books were coming to the house, and for some reason I was fascinated with the vans that were in those magazines.
Okay.
And so I actually cut up his books. He hated me for it for many years, and it took me 30 years to replace them all, but there was just a fascination with those vans, and I started building my first van in 1974. When I went to my first event, I collected my t-shirt, my dash plaque, and my little souvenirs that came along at the events. And I've always been a collector of that memorabilia, even before I owned a van. When I rode bicycles for, you know, distance racing and stuff.
Right.
I just something that always fascinated me, and it grew and grew and grew to the point where I've been through at least 6 different buildings now.
Wow.
And this is our biggest to date. Most of it's been in my house or in my basement up north, or, you know, places like that.
Right.
And about 10 or 12 years ago, a friend of mine actually decided, came into some money and decided that he needed a tax write-off. And by us creating a nonprofit, we were able to use that money instead of giving it to the government.
Right.
And the land here became available for me because my house is here on the corner.
Oh, okay.
And I bought this piece of property next door just a few years before that. And then we just started growing from there. But,
Wow.
I've always had one of the largest collections in the country.
Right.
I mean, I don't
So
know
we
how much-
started with, we saw this one. So the other day, because we're down here in Tampa, and we're not giving the address. You don't give the address unless somebody's coming.
Correct.
So you have the website though,
Correct.
which is
museumofvanning.com. We're also on Facebook under Museum of Vanning or Van Museum. Either way you
And-
can find us.
so that way if somebody wants to come here, they reach you through there, schedule an appointment.
Just give us a call. My wife and I run this place exclusively, so we want to make sure we're going to be here when you want to come see us. We could be away at a car show or doing something else, and we wanted to make sure that we're going to be around. We don't like to be tied to 9 to 5 hours. We've had people that visit us after hours or in the morning.
Okay.
And all we ask is that make sure we're going to be here. Love to give tours and, you know, make sure we're going to be home.
All right. So first on the outside of the building, before we get to the ones behind us, so you've got a Chevy, a Ford, and a Dodge. Okay. But you've got the Chevy, Ford, and Dodge.
Correct.
So, whoa.
You think I'd know that?
So when you're looking at vanning, is vanning, number one, do they put those Volkswagen vans, do you guys consider those vannings? You know what I'm talking about? The what do they call it? 29 window vans or something like that? Or
Volkswagens in our world were considered taboo.
okay, so they're not really part of,
Our culture,
yeah.
not so much. Only because those Volkswagens, like I never considered myself a hippie.
Right.
You know, even though I started doing this in the 60s or late 60s, I wasn't into the flower power, Haight-Ashbury, you know,
Right.
that kind of thing. Not to say that some of those guys were not into what we did too.
Right.
There were quite a bit of that.
Right.
But a lot of these guys were ex-servicemen that were hot rodders and car guys before they ever owned a van. And so owning an American van with a V8 motor in it was a big deal.
Okay.
You know, the Volkswagens were underpowered, they were smaller, rear engined, which gave them less room to work with inside. So they weren't as popular as, you know, as our American vans were.
So just when people are talking vans, they're usually in this world, they're usually talking a Dodge, Ford, a U.S. made,
Correct,
U.S.
yes.
manufacturer.
Right.
So, and that's why I guess you have Chevy, Ford, and Dodge up there.
Yep, we do.
And then, and you have everything. I see an Astro van there, right? So,
The 94 Astro van.
and then, but we started with this one, which we saw at the car show.
This is Panic in Detroit. This is a 1970 Econoline.
And this one here is, when was this made and everything, you kind of?
I found this van in Fort Myers, Florida, in 1990.
Wow.
The guy was working in AACA, Antique Auto Club Car Show, using it as a trailer. He was pulling it behind his motorhome, and it was full of tables and chairs and cooking accessories. And I knew the truck when I saw it immediately. I was there also working the show, and I made him an offer on the van. He decided he didn't really want to sell it, but a month later I got a phone call, and his wife told him it was time to clear out some stuff out of the garage. He owned 13 1930s vintage Packards at the time, so this was the one thing to decide to get rid of. I think the Packards might still be there.
Now, did this have the flares on it at the time?
Nothing was
Or?
on. This is a plain off-white empty box van, the way it was built in the original 70s, with 240 6-cylinder manual steering. I've done every bit of the work on this truck, everything.
Wow. And this, I mean, this would be like a period correct van. That there's nothing except for, is there a flat screen in here or no?
No.
No. So it would be.
Trying to watch TV.
So this would be something that this would be completely period correct if somebody wanted to make it.
There are a few things that are updated in this van: the motor, the wheels. You know, a lot of things that are being done today in today's world mechanically. But pretty much so, yeah.
Oh wow.
Because I'm still stuck in the 70s.
Now, did you do the fabric work as well?
I did every inch of this truck except paint it.
Wow.
All the upholstery work I learned how to do back in the 70s. All the button tuck, yes, my wife and I did. She sewed the parts that need sewing, and I did all the button tuck work.
Crazy. And did you? Well, you didn't. Did you? You didn't do the airbrushing, you said, right?
Correct. There is no airbrush on this truck. This is all hand painted by brush.
Oh wow.
It does hand lettering, so all of the paintwork on this truck is
So by hand.
painted.
Who did the I love the glass.
Stained glass.
Stained glass, yeah.
Yeah. A Vanner friend from Canada actually did those for us. She did the tail lights. As you can see, the
Yeah, that's why I saw those.
lights and the front marker lights were all done at the same time.
This is beautiful. What wheels are on those?
Those are actually SS Kragers that have been powder coated.
Okay. Are they got to be, are they the old Kragers?
That is a old school Krager, yes.
Yeah.
With a spinner, a fluted spinner, and a beauty ring on it.
Yeah, because they have a different build than the newer ones. So.
Well, Kragers at the time, or they may still be, are split rim wheels. They're aluminum centers with steel outers.
Right.
And they have a tendency to crack a little bit after age. And they come apart. So instead of me buying new wheels, I love the look of the Kragers. I went out and priced new wheels, and I didn't like the price, so I knew a couple of guys, again, had powder coated their wheels.
Right.
And I looked into it, and the place here locally in Port Richey did it for us.
Now, are these? I'm assuming they are, but side pipes are functional.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
They're hooked up to my my 302, which is also new.
Now, did you do the engine work?
A place called JW Rod Shop here in Hudson, Florida, built the motor. They started with a Craig 302 roller motor. It's got an Offenhauser intake with a Holly 4-barrel on it.
Oh wow.
Turns about 225 horse.
And that's a beautiful.
We also
Beautiful
added
rig.
power steering to it, upgraded the brakes. Drivetrain is all new. bigger radiator.
Is this metal?
All steel. The hood is all hand-formed steel.
Okay.
Started with a flat piece of metal,
Right.
and then they contoured the skin underneath it, and then stamped the 40 louvers in it.
Oh wow. And built this?
And built the steel scoop, and then stamped the louvers in it, correct. And then they curved it to use the match the original inner skin.
Wow.
That was done by a guy named Matchstick Customs out of California, and those louvers were stamped on Gene Winfield's original press that he had designed back in the 50s.
For all the hot rods that used
Correct.
to be, yeah.
Yep. Matchstick actually works for Gene Winfield at his shop in California.
Oh wow. Sweet. There's a little bit of a theme going through this one.
There's 3 things in this truck.
You got the Jimmy Hoffa stuff,
My gangster, yep.
and of course the Tiki stuff,
Yep.
and what, the flamingos?
Flamingos, exactly.
So,
The word is happy wife, happy life. My wife loves flamingos. So our compromise is I can build a custom van, but we have to sort of keep it on her timeline. All of that bamboo is actually cut from my neighbor's yard. That is all real
so that's
bamboo.
that's real bamboo.
Yep.
Wow.
My neighbor across the street said, "Come and cut all you want."
That's only grass.
Well,
I love this, the clearance, the way you guys did this too.
yeah,
I mean,
well, that's a
little
necessity
details
thing
like that.
Because of the windows.
But the little details of this van are so.
Well, it can only happen in 20 years of building a truck. You can't build something like that overnight.
Wow. So then we've seen this. So now we go to
This is the
This
Flying
one.
Eagle. This truck was originally built in 1976. This is its 3rd paint job in its history. The interior in this van is all original from 1976. It's built by a fellow named Greg of Akron, who was a custom painter and builder by trade back then, who has since passed away.
Oh wow.
See the skylight in it?
Yeah. It's just there's the 2 skylights and then those back windows that with
Yeah,
the
all
doors
stained
closed
glass.
gives with the door closed like that it makes you look like in depth.
We found this van on eBay about 12 years ago. It was in northern Michigan and it had a fire in the engine compartment. It was burnt from about the dashboard forward, and has since been rebuilt, new motor put in it, all the drivetrain again, and then the highlights and all the body repainted and fixed. And this paint job has been on it about 10 years now.
Now the that looks like it's like a ship or
It's a
it's supposed to masthead.
Mhm.
And it has these are the barrels, so it kind of looks like the inside of a whiskey barrel or a
Well, it's a ship theme. It's a
Yeah.
nautical theme.
Yeah.
The whole van was done on that
Oh.
canvas.
it's even got a mast. Very cool. And that, I guess he was a woodworker, huh? Of some kind.
He was a little bit of everything. A very talented person. The last person that brought this van back to life goes by the handle of Coop, Greg Cooper from Columbus, Ohio. He fixed the paint on it and brought the body and the van basically back to work. The unique features on this
Now,
van,
and these aren't wraps, right? Is this a wrap? This is not a wrap.
this is complete. This is airbrush work. This is all hand painted stripes and airbrush on this truck.
Everybody nowadays, you want something like this, you just go and you tell the printer to print it and they put it on here.
Nope.
That this stuff is
No
talent.
stickers.
I mean,
stickers.
look at all that. That is talent.
That's actually gold leaf on there.
Wow.
Greg of Akron was a very talented airbrush painter in his day, and Greg Cooper, who ended up with the van recently, is just as talented. The one thing about this van, or the many things about this van you have to really notice is, first off, the flares are all molded in fiberglass. The drip rail is shaved off this truck. There's no drip rail. The marker lights are gone, molded in. The pans in the front and the back are both rolled under. This is a single back door. The whole back of this van has been molded, and they created a single back door. This originally had double doors on the back.
Right.
So it was all molded and create the single door. The harpoon bumpers are all handmade.
Even the lights, another
More
thing.
stained glass.
Stained glass.
Yep.
So the Flying Eagle 2.
This is Flying Eagle 2. This is the second version of the Flying Eagle that Greg of Akron built. The first one was in 1975. This was his follow-up truck. This van won Best Van in the Nation at the 4th National Trucking in 1976.
So 1976, this was probably in a couple magazines then.
This was in quite a few magazines, actually. Its original color was more of a chocolate brown.
Right.
The gold color is more of an update for its current paint job.
Wow.
Those were the last 2 times the van was shown in Ohio. See, the hood is louvered on this thing. The motor's
Right.
pretty detailed in it.
There's a lot more room than I even remember in these.
1975, this is the next generation from the Panic in Detroit. That van was built until 1974. In 1975, Ford moved the engine forward to make everything more accessible under the hood, working its way back to more of the panel truck look that was back in the 50s. When the first generation van was built, like the one that's on the wall over there,
Right.
you couldn't access the oil,
Like
and
that.
you couldn't access the dipsticks and anything to check any of that. You had to do it from the inside. So Ford's idea, or Ford's better idea, when they moved engine forward in 1969, was to make it easier to check the oil and your fluids and your battery and things like that.
Now, did Chevy and Dodge didn't follow that for a couple of years, did they?
They did. Chevy went in 1970 and Dodge went in 71. So Ford has been pretty much the pioneer with the moving of the front ends.
I'm listening to you, but I'm just...
Sorry,
No, you're fine.
sometimes I blank.
I'm listening to you while...
That's the tribute that they did for Greg of Akron. That's all lettered under the hood there.
Yeah, it's just beautiful. And there is a sparkle to the paint. I mean, it's very metallic
Oh
paint.
yeah, there's metal flake in it for sure. Yep.
And then this is, you can see here that that's a hand pinstripe. That's not tape.
Yeah, correct. There's no tape. That stuff doesn't exist. Not in my world anyway.
Wow. And so is now these are kept here or on loan to you to show people, or what's
These
the...
have actually been donated to the museum.
Okay.
Panic in Detroit is my personal van. That's
Right.
what I take to the shows. This van and the Voodoo Lounge here and the other pieces you're going to see have been donated to the museum. Our goal is to expand and get these vans inside. They're stored inside now until we have special events like our party we just had last
Right.
week, and then I bring them out for people to see. But our goal is to keep expanding and growing so that we can get these on display full-time inside.
Now, before we look at the next one, if somebody has a van like this, you probably would know about it if it was like this, but if somebody has something like this or wants to donate to you guys or be a part of your museum, they just reach you through email or just go to the website and it tells you how to reach out to y'all?
All of the ways above, sure. We're easy to reach on through the website. You know, I do a weekly, monthly, whenever I get around to a blog on the Facebook page. I try to stay in touch with the vanning world, and us going out in the vans and going to those car shows, hopefully, you know, get this out in the public so the rest of the world knows about what we're doing here.
And like I told you on the phone when I first talked to you, that even though you're only 4.5 miles from where I'm staying, I found out about you from somebody when I was 400 miles north in Georgia, who you didn't even know, yet knows about here because he has an orange van similar to yours. Or I'm sorry,
Chevy.
it was a green Chevy, but a 67.
Right.
And
First
he's the
generation.
one that said you need to come here because you guys did have a national or like a van. He said it was the Turkey Run of vans.
Yeah, well, that was just going to be a weekend van show that actually didn't happen. It used to be at Ross Meyer's Harley shop over in Daytona Beach, and that club wasn't able to. Ross Meyer's just recently was sold or something, and they weren't able to pull that event off. But there's a major network of vans through, especially now through Facebook and the internet. Custom van, you know, stuff you search online, and you can bring up almost 3,000 different links of van clubs around the country, and shops and places to buy, and guys that run particular groups based on certain kinds of vans, early models, mid models, you know, later models.
Now, is
Ford, Chevy,
Vanning
Dodge.
magazine still around?
There are no particular van magazines, although
Okay.
there are a couple of places. This matchstick I was telling you about runs in a magazine called CustomVanner.com. He puts it out maybe once, sometimes twice a year. depending on how busy he is with other projects. There's also drop draw vans, which now does an annual magazine off of our national trucking. Has, I believe, close to 1,000 pictures inside, which is available right now, as a matter of fact. Pictures that he did coverage of at our Van Nationals. He also produced a calendar this year with lots of great pictures on it.
Now, if somebody wants to get into vanning, which for a while there, it seemed to me, and just me, but vanning disappeared, but in the last couple of years has started to come back. And I guess that might be because the internet now is letting people connect.
Well, you used the term survivor van. What's happening is, California is where all of this started, Southern California. And California now all of a sudden is showing interest in it. And being in the media business, one of the things that spawned our sport was the media. A bunch of guys were sitting around driving in their vans in California, and Hot Rod Magazine took notice of it. The more pictures they started putting in their vans, the more guys were interested in it, and the snowball started to roll with the van shops and other magazines. And so, the media brought vanning to such a huge attention, and here we are 50 years later, it's coming around again. So the guys that are finding these vans, they're finding those survivor vans in the barns and garages and stuff, and they're showing an interest in these trucks because they're kind of cool, they're different. Same way that everybody started building 57 Chevys and four-door cars
Right.
they couldn't find anymore.
And then there's I know growing up in the 80s, when there's a giant building on I-75, or I don't know if it's still there, but Mark V vans used to make those big vans with the captain chairs and the roofs, which were pretty much more like mini buses for people, and basically
Mark III, yes.
I don't know if those were considered, we used to call them custom vans. They weren't really custom vans. They were, because they weren't like this kind of custom. What's in your van groups or whatever, those vans, are they better left if someone restores one of those? Are those accepted, or are they looking more for somebody that does something pretty like cool custom instead?
Well, the correct term on those vans are called conversion vans.
Okay.
And those conversion vans actually started back in the 70s when, a bunch of these long-haired kids left such an influence on the whole country that the auto companies actually noticed. Ford, Chevy, and General Motors got a whiff of what was going on with these custom vans, and they started creating them right out of the factory themselves. Sending them out to van shops to be converted and then putting them on lots. What you see today in these conversion vans is just a next generation of those. A lot of the vanners that are of my age are into those now because they can find them where the interiors are done. All they have to do is maybe rip out the couch in the back and build a bed in there, or
Right.
Make them more comfortable. They're like driving a Cadillac down the road. I own an 02 that is the most comfortable, amazing vehicle I've ever owned. It doesn't rattle, it don't shake, and it's got an awesome stereo, and it's quiet, and so it is the evolution of where the van came from. Unfortunately, the big government has not allowed a lot of the things that were done in those vans to continue. So those companies are all gone.
Oh, so it was because my parents had an 89
Yeah.
Ford Econoline with the raised roof and all, and I remember the TV was there. And
Yeah. After 1992, the regulations of the government destroyed those companies.
Oh.
Bay windows became illegal, swivel seats became illegal, and none of that stuff would stand up in a crash test.
Oh.
So it just destroyed the companies and their ability to do those things. Now, you can buy factory converted vans anymore, which are based on factory window vans. They don't have the larger bay windows that are
Right.
installed in them. And so what they're doing to them is a lot less elaborate than they used to do to these things back in the day.
Wow.
And so it's sort of taken the fun out of it, but nothing says you can't take them home, put a nice set of mags on them and some pinstriping on them here and there.
Yeah, I didn't know. I always wondered, like, all of a sudden they were everywhere, and then they were nowhere.
It's been since about 1996.
Yeah.
The government regulations have changed.
Wow, that's crazy. So this one here
This van is called the Pearl. This was donated to us by Connie Williams from Virginia Beach. Connie was actually at the very first Woodstock in 1969. She was a nurse there and immediately became enamored with Janis Joplin. And so she built her van theme around the 60s tie-dye and the whole rock and roll theme from back in the day. All the windows in this van are etched all the way around. This is a 94 Chevy Astro van. And she was single at the time, and a few years ago, she met a new beau and decided to, he wanted to travel with her and see the world.
Right.
And so they bought a bigger full-size van. And instead of this van just going to anybody and getting tore up on the highway, she wanted it to be saved.
Oh, wow.
That's why she donated to the museum.
Wow. Look at all the everybody used to wear the buttons from everything, collect them.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it seems like stickers, for the most part, are part of the van thing, because it seems like almost every van's got
Stickers
in the back windows
Well,
and
the
stuff.
surfers started that with all their van shops, and vanners have always been hoarders of souvenirs, which you'll see inside the building, whether it's putting the patches on their jackets or stickers on their vans. We love showing the world all the places we've been. That's what this board is all about.
That's what I was going to ask next.
Yeah, this is all the people that have come to see us here at the museum from the United States, all the places they've come to from.
So these are visitor areas.
Correct. And if I show you the other side, these are people from all over the world.
Oh, wow.
We've had people here from Norway and Finland and Sweden. We just had visitors here 3 days ago from Denmark. They've been here from Estonia, which is a Russian province, England, Spain. So
Wow.
we're still working on the African continent and Australians, although we have a connection with a lot of Australians. We actually have a display in the Museum of Australian Vanning. We just haven't got any of them over here yet. So
I would think that there'd be some people here with the vans down there, but maybe haven't been here yet. But
yeah, well, it seems that most of them across the border aren't doing it.
they're the ones that go back. Sometimes they're just going over here to surf and do other things.
Right, right.
All right, so then this building here is the Van Museum. Oh, we got one more? Mm-hmm. Okay.
You did some pictures, but I didn't really tell you about it.
Oh, okay.
So I'd like to tell you about
Oh,
it.
yeah. Where are we going?
Well, wherever you want. I just want to tell you about this truck.
Oh, yeah, okay. All right.
Well, this van is called the Voodoo Lounge. This is a 1987 Ford that was donated to us by a fellow named Bob Maurice. Also went by Starship Trooper. Bobby just passed away about 3 weeks ago, and he knew that he was battling cancer this summer and decided that the last act that he would have in his vanning life would be to make sure that his van would be enjoyed by other people. And so he donated it and all his camping material and all of the contents to the museum. He gave us some of his trophies you see inside. It was a national winner at a couple of nationals. A fellow named Greg Gerns actually owned this van before Bobby. He went by the handle of Odie. He was from Michigan. So this van's been owned by two vanners in its life. It was bought new in 1987. Odie was worked for Ford Motor Company and bought the van new back then. The paint on this truck is 87 Mustang blue. And as you can see, Bobby took incredible care of the van. I found all kinds of polishes and rags and all that stuff inside the van when we opened it up, so I knew he took really great care of it.
And this is what you were talking about, the windows that are no longer legal, right?
Correct. There are companies now that are making these things, are repairing them and remaking the glass on them, and there are places like up in Elkhart, which was the RV capital of the world, that have warehouses that have backstocked these things, because a lot of motorhomes and RVs and vans still had these things, trying to find them. So if you're lucky enough to be able to find the size and the shape of one of them, you can actually find one. So
wow, well, it's beautiful.
Yep.
So
yep.
I mean, is this the original paint?
No, this is 87 Mustang blue. It was originally a darker blue color. As I was saying, Greg, who owned it originally, worked for Ford Motor Company, and he had insight with Ford and a few things that were going on. But Bobby's owned it for the last 10 years, and he's the one that truly took care of this van, and drove it all the time. This truck's never been on the road, on the back of a flatbed or delivery or whatever else. He drove it and camped in it, slept in it, and traveled in it, and just had a lot of fun with the van.
And again, this is hand paint as well.
Hand painted, yep. The Voodoo Lounge, he was a Rolling Stones fan. That's where that comes from.
Right. Wow. And we've already seen this. And this has captain's chairs, so very cool. April, should they subscribe to this channel even if they don't like cars today for this one?
Probably just for this one.